What is going on? You are watching and, of course, listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition, where we're here every Wednesday night on the Crowdcast platform. I am your host, Steve V. This is episode 571, alongside my beauty. Hello, darling, Kodi Maurice Doggette.
Hello, darling sister. How are you today?
I am really good. If I'm glowing, it's because I was out in the sun yesterday hiking.
Oh, is that why?
That's pretty much why, honestly, because it's the person I've been spending some time with as of recently that we've gotten a little bit closer. And we went on this really amazing hike in upstate New York. And it was literally, if you were scared of heights, this was not the hike for you. It was literally cliffs, and this one part called the lemon squeeze, where you literally had to squeeze between two rock formations, and my backpack didn't even fit through there. I had to take it off and like push it up, and it was claustrophobic. But when we got up there, it was amazing scenes and beautiful, and I just had like the greatest time. I carried Memorial Day weekend a day into Tuesday, so yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love a nice hike when it's not too high, because you were telling me some things and I was like, no, this is not for me. We can go on a nice nature walk through the woods, but
You and I did a hike
I'm glad
back
you had a
in
good
the
time.
you and I did like kind of a long walk in nature when we
Oh, yeah.
spent time at our friend of the show, Reverend Kyle Applegate's partner, and we spent time up there, and it was very, no height, no steepness to it, and we did
I
fine. But
love
you
it.
could probably do a
Yeah.
little bit more than that, but we won't take you, I promise, to anything of the cliffs like I was doing yesterday, because that's a little crazy.
Yeah, I went on a Runyon Canyon hike one time and I was paralyzed with
Oh my God,
fear.
Runyon Canyon.
Paralyzed. I couldn't even move. I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. It's pretty bad. So I don't know. We can try, but you might have to get me helipadded out with a helicopter. I don't know.
I love
Girl,
it. Just check
it's
your audio to
real.
make sure that your settings are all set on Crowdcast, but I think they are. I just want to double check. We are live in front of a virtual audience tonight. I see Bryce. Hello, Bryce. I see Doug. Hello, Doug. DG. Hello, DG. Yay. Glad you're joining us.
Hi,
So many
PG.
cool things we got so many things to get into. It is our season 8 premiere. We are celebrating 7 years of podcasting, motherfuckers. And to do so, we have been talking about how you can take advantage of our special offer. And when I say that, you can go to our Patreon page and pick up. Oh, I just saw some lightning. Sorry. I'm right by my window and I just I think I saw some lightning. Anyway, you can take advantage of our special offer and grab one of 2 tiers, and you get so many special perks like our show with no advertisements, which is one really cool thing. You can get an extra show at the end of the month that we produce. You can get things like joining our Discord community, where you can communicate with us during the week and continue the hot topics. It's a lot of fun. We want you to join. But most importantly, if you join between now and June 30th, the end of Pride, you can automatically get our upcoming live stream in July with Kodi and myself, and we're going to be sharing intimate stories. It's going to be like a live concert moment, and Kodi is going to be singing live his brand new single, Talk About It, plus some new material. And we also want you to weigh in, because he's going to do a cover or 2, and depending on which songs you want to hear, he may sing it. We were talking about George Michael last week, so put your songs in there. We'll give our handles at the end of the show. And the last thing I'll say about this is that go to our Patreon anyway, because we are going to be we're going to be putting up free content up there that you won't get on our social handles. And it's going to be things like behind the scenes, Kodi in the studio, me, things like what I make on the day for this show, fun stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we want you to take advantage of that. Kodi, are you still there? I hope you
I'm
are.
here.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
you
Can you
are.
see me?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
And by the
fabulous.
way, there is live thunder and lightning outside of my window. I was not making
Uh-oh.
this up, but yeah, I know. And as a West Coaster, when I see that, I'm always a little freaked out because we didn't grow up with that. So, anyways, okay. So much to get
Aw.
into. By the way, it's patreon.com/tags podcast. And we'll give it at the end of the
Fabulous.
show. But Kodi, just the other day, the Pope, and I can't believe we're talking about the Pope on a gay sex podcast, but the Pope had to apologize for using a slur referring to gay men. I think we all know the one that starts with F, but he actually said it in a different way. And it was during
Yeah.
a meeting with the Italian bishops at the Vatican, where a discussion of whether to admit gay men to Catholic seminars in preparation for priesthood was the discussion. And he essentially said that they reported that Francis opposed the idea of saying there was already too much, I don't want to use the word, in the seminaries. And he kind of used a
Just
different
say it.
word for it,
Be
right?
bad. I think it's the Italian version of the word.
Yeah, it was the Italian version of it. And essentially, but yeah, you're right. It's the same thing as, I mean, can we say it on this show? I never want to
I
offend.
say it. I never say it, but I think in this case, because you're reporting on a story, I feel
Faggots
like,
is the word.
yeah.
And yes, exactly. And so apparently it got leaked out, and the controversy got, every media outlet has been talking about it, and he had to issue an apology and saying he did not mean to offend anybody. But it's a very specific word, whether it's in Italian, Kodi, or in English. How do you say that? I was watching another show before you answered, though, where they were saying
Mhm.
that most of these bishops that he was talking to are gay, and maybe he felt comfortable talking amongst other gay men, gay bishops, to just kind of use that. Like, there's already, how we sometimes can use that word. I don't use it, you don't use it, but we've
Yeah.
heard friends of the communities use it throughout. Hey, faggot, this blah blah blah, and they'll use it within context, within your own. Like, maybe he was just a little too comfortable with it, but a disgruntled bishop had it leaked out. What do you think about all
Yeah.
of this? And it's sloppy anyway, because the Catholic Church has been in hot water for years.
Oh, facts. I think that he was with other gay men that were there that were bishops. I think that is such a cop out. I think that sounds like bullshit to me. It smells like bullshit to me. And I think that his true colors finally shown. I know that he's one of the more progressive popes, and he has stated very supportive things to the LGBTQ plus community in the past. But him using this word, he's not one of the girls. He can't say anything like this and think that it would not be offensive. That's wild to me. So I think that he should probably learn from this and do some soul searching as to what would make him think that he could use that word, and move from there. I really am very saddened by this, because I really thought that he was a staunch ally to the LGBTQ plus community, and this to me indicates that all was a ruse in order for him to uh, uh, ally himself with us, and try and smooth things over with us, and try to get us to come back to the church. So
It's
it really makes me sad.
It's like we put so much emphasis on what the Pope says still to this day, many of us former Catholics, and it's when he says something, sadly or maybe not sadly, we all as a culture, at least here in America and in parts of Europe, we listen. And when you hear something like that, it's like, that's just sloppy and is not going to make many of us come back to at all the Catholic religion, or even any of the things that they are spouting out, and it's only going to produce things and remind us of all the controversies that they're surrounded by. And I'm talking about pedophilia, and I'm talking about taking advantage of all the insidious things that we've seen throughout the years. So it's just gross, and one more reason why I'm glad I'm no longer a Catholic boy student.
You and me
And
both.
yeah,
I mean, we're Catholic boys until we die, like to our core. For me, I feel that way. But
I'm not, though, actually, to be honest.
no,
What I am is spiritual, and I've
oh, I
transitioned to
am.
spirituality, and I'm very spiritual and believe in a higher power, and have done so for the last several years of my life. And while I adopt some of the prayer that I still use growing up as a Catholic, there's certain things that I say in my morning intentions. That's about it. But it's really my relationship with God and my relationship with the higher power. So,
Yeah, I agree
yeah.
with that. I think I'm on that wavelength as well. I guess for myself, I was talking about more. There are things that are ingrained in me from the Catholic Church that I have a hard time letting go, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's interesting how we hold on to those things because,
Yeah.
I mean, not to get too deep in this, and we're moving on right after this, but one of the things that I say in my prayer is in Jesus's name, amen. And I often
Yeah.
say that in my morning intentions. And so,
And I almost
anyways.
said with your
Oh gosh, I
oh
know.
my gosh. Take a
And
sip, honey.
lightning
Take a
keep
sip.
and I know, and lightning keeps striking to the left of me, so I'm a little bit like, I'm scared. Okay. I know.
Sorry.
Drink your juice, Shelby. Well, let's do some good news because a right-wing influencer Force is now being forced to pay $1.1 million to a black drag queen because she lied about her during Pride Month. And this was back in 2022 as the right was protesting drag performances around the country, calling queens groomers, and they're still doing it today. We know this, Kodi. Well, conservative influencer Summer Bushnell posted a doctored video of the drag queen Mona Liza Milliion, supposedly saying that she exposed herself to children in an attempt to prove that drag queens should not be allowed to perform in public. Here's the problem that Summer had is that, has she ever heard of tucked? When you're a drag queen, you tuck, right? How are you exposing your genitals? If you're all drag queens tuck, back me up on this, Kodi.
A lot of them tuck or they wear a gaff. And most of the time, I'm pretty sure Mona Lisa with the Z is hers was pretty tucked from my understanding.
And basically in the video, she claimed that she exposed herself in a performance, and actually she blurred out because she said she didn't want to show it. But when it came down to it, authorities, FBI could not produce that at all, that Mona exposed herself at all. And when pressed, actually Summer Bushnell admitted that she said that she lied about this. Well, now she has to pay up to 1.1 million in damages for defaming Miss Mona Liza Milliion. And oh my goodness, this is like snaps, because Eric Posey, who is Mona, is now going to collect that, and hopefully collect that, because hopefully this Summer has 1.1 million, but allegedly she probably does. But it's going to send a huge message, because I think with things like AI and with the far right and with things like you can say anything you want and accuse somebody of something, and when our community is under attack, this is what, don't do that. And here is the repercussions. What do you say?
I kind of want somebody to do this to me so I can give me $1.1 million. Some right wing person that is insane. So come and do it to me. I'm available. But no, I think this is something that's horrible. I'm glad that Mona stood up for herself and got out there and got in front of it and redeemed her name, because this is really horrible. And this is what the right is the more people, the people that are against our community. This is what their talking point is, that we're groomers, that we are out here trying to get their kids. We're like the monsters under the bed, and it's really ridiculous to me. And I feel like a lot of these people are doing this in order to distract from their own misdeeds they have out going on out there. But that's neither here nor there. I think in this case that this is only one way that these people have used against us in order to defame our names as a community. And I think that this is what we have to do in order to stand up for ourselves and say that we're not going to take this lying down, because this is the one thing we won't take lying down.
Okay. I love legs up or not.
I mean, hello, goodbye.
Well, we are live and we want to read some comments. There's a bunch of comments. Kodi, do you want to read some of the comments that have come in recently before I pull up our next story? Because it's a big story we're going to talk about.
I know. Alan says that I look good. Hey, thank you, Alan. And he asks if I'm still in Kansas because get the ruby slippers and Toto and get out of there. And I say, it's that time is coming, sir, very soon. Bryce says, it is. Yes, it really is. In 2 weeks, guys. And I'll be right back in New York City. Bryce says, Christians say being spiritual includes Satan. And I just could not believe that. Alan goes on to say, I went from Catholic to Episcopal, which is way more diverse and inclusive. His priest is gay, and they are marching in Pride next weekend. Never looking back. And congratulations to you. And then Alan goes on to say, Go Mona, and Bryce says that he agrees with me.
Love it. Well, we love when you weigh in, and you know, we can continue the conversation. You know, we can continue the conversation on our Patreon page too, where our Discord channel comes with both of our tiers. And I'm talking about the virgin and the sub tier. There's only 2 tiers to pick. And when you do, you're supporting Tags Podcast, and you can do it between now and June 30th. Go to patreon.com/Tags Podcast. And all week you can weigh in and talk to Kodi and myself. And it's a lot of fun. But we have got to this next topic that I've been wanting to talk about. We're going to be talking about masculinity. And Kodi and I love in a meeting to pair up topics that relate to each other, don't we, Kodi?
Oh, yeah. They feed into each other. You can bounce topics off of each other. It's really great. So we enjoy that.
Especially when it's a pop culture moment. And, you know, Jerry Seinfeld, somebody that I was a huge fan of for so long. I was a huge Seinfeld fan who, you know, he has a new movie out right now that he produced, and he's been going back on tour. And I don't know if I like the current Jerry Seinfeld that I'm seeing. It kind of falls into the category of old white men, straight men that we've been seeing, that when they come back, Kodi, it's like, do we really want to hear what you have to think? And oftentimes I feel, and I preference that they're regurgitating thoughts that they had when they were popular in a certain area, in his case, the 90s, obviously. And it's like, I don't want to hear that because it doesn't relate to society today. Well, he said things that comedy isn't what it was back in the day recently, and everybody's too PC, woke. He didn't use the word woke, but we're all a little PC. Well, his latest, when he was on the podcast, a podcast that's actually Barry Weiss's podcast, Honestly with Barry Weiss, he admitted that he really wants dominant masculinity to come back, a return of dominant masculinity. And let me explain a little bit more. On this podcast, he said that, you know, while he doesn't feel he fits into dominant masculinity, because as a comic, you need to be more childlike. And he used examples of who he thought was dominant masculine when he was looking up to men. And the names are of people like John F. Kennedy, Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery, and Howard Cosell were the ones that came to his mind. And he knew there was going to be some pushback when he said it. And if you listen to when he said it, he almost pushed back to me. He says, yeah, I get the toxic thing. Thank you. But I still like a real man. And he said he misses the unspoken get this, Kodi, hierarchy in society from back in the day, which he says simply doesn't exist anymore. And let's just break this down, because the
Let's go.
hierarchy he misses, I mean, what is this, 1950 again? I don't understand. It's like, you can like some that list, Muhammad Ali, a great, of course. I personally loved Sean Connery as one of the best 007s of all time. And Seinfeld does go on to say that in his current movie, he throws some bones to Hugh Grant, right? Because Hugh Grant can always order a cocktail properly, has the right outfit on, has the right things to say. So it's almost like he walked it back a little bit. But I think it's a deeper conversation that a lot of people have been having in certain circles. I'm thinking of Bill Maher, who has said things like, forget about toxic masculinity. We're actually losing our men because they're so afraid to be masculine anymore. And what's the word that we were saying in our meeting? That they're being emasculated.
Yep.
And straight men are being emasculated. What do you think of when you hear what Seinfeld's saying, or some of the comments that Bill Maher's, this new shift that, we need to go back to a different time?
Well, I think with the rise of having more knowledge about non-binary and the extensive ways one can have their gender, and I think that the whole thought of masculine men and straight men being masculine, I think this is pushback from being so extensive and finding out more knowledge about gender. So I mean, I get where it's
and
coming
that's growth,
from.
right?
Yeah,
Should
that's
be
growth as
growth.
a society. But Steve, I am a firm believer that if you take 2 steps forward in society, then society is going to try and bring you 1 step back. So we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to minimize the step backwards, from my perspective, personally.
So what you're saying is we're always going to experience that pushback from people that don't like change, and people want things like they were before, but things shouldn't be like they were before. Yes.
Girl. Yeah, I see that. And I think that Jerry Seinfeld, he says that he wants dominant men back, but I don't know if he really means dominant men, because the men
it's such an awful word to use as a choice word.
Yeah, as like a talking point, as a keystone to the phrase that you're using.
Have you somehow tapped into our community? Because sometimes I want my man to be dominant, sometimes I'm dominant, and we use those words in our community a lot in a sexual terminology in the bedroom, or maybe sometimes in the bathroom stall. But I'm just saying, did Jerry really mean to use it? Because I don't think he was using it the way we use it.
Well, if it's in a bedroom, then honey, all bets are off as long as consent is concerned. So I think that is that's the one place where dominant is perfectly okay. But in the real world, in society, being dominant comes with a lot of strings, and I don't think that he meant for that to come across in what he was saying, because all the men that he mentioned, Muhammad Ali, there's sports reporter Cosell. I don't know his name. I had to Google him, girl.
Howard Cosell.
There it is.
Sean Connery.
Yes. Those men they don't exude dominant. They exude confidence. They exude the type of masculinity that is associated with what did I have in here in my notes? With responsibility and making sure that people are okay. So let me pick up
where you're talking about, because he is missing the point, because he used a modern day example. Of course, it was somebody that is in his current movie, Hugh Grant. And he used words like, they dress the part, they are gentlemen, they do all these things. So confidence is kind of what you're saying. Dominant is not what he's talking about. And I don't know if he's confused or walking it backwards, but when we talk about people on our show like Coleman Domingo, who just won an Oscar, and we talk about RuPaul, who continuously wins Emmys, who's serving it deliciously, and when we talk about Little Nas X, who is killing it, or my favorite, Omar Apollo, who is just about to release a new album and is so confident in his shell. I think these are the newer examples of men that are serving it and actually being confident in the way that he's describing a Hugh Grant or a Sean Connery back in the day. Dominant men that it's like, if unless you're talking about the bedroom and a BDSM moment, I don't want to hear the word dominant men, and it's just
Because you're
toxic.
not going to dominate me. That's the thing. Like,
Or
and
anybody,
that
a woman, a man, a
right.
non-binary person. It's just like, what are you even saying? And maybe I think it's just, to me, an example of out of touch and angry white man spewing somebody that I used to look up to and love, that thinks they have it figured out and they really don't, and they're not moving. What they're really not doing is moving along with evolution and society, that in the beautiful that way we are. If you looked at a lot of the men that, some of his examples, but just men that we put up on a pedestal. I mean, look at Rock Hudson, for those old timers back in the day that know who I'm talking about. He tried to live up to this dominant man. Look at the film Giant. If you want a good film with Elizabeth Taylor, you will see he's trying to live up to that Texas man that's in charge of everything. But in reality, he was gay. And it was like he had to hide his sexuality and sadly died of AIDS. And it's like, there's where we are with dominant men. It's like, and I don't think women really want that either.
No, I don't think so either. It's giving Harrison Butker, the guy that's the Kansas City Chiefs kicker. So, and I don't think that anybody wants to return to that. I feel like if you want to dominate somebody or dominate society or dominate the people that are around you, then you should take a look inside and see what that is actually giving you, because it's not something that I feel like your average person would want to do. I feel like masculinity should probably return to or make its way towards open-mindedness. And I think that that's the most masculine thing you can do, and be loving. I think Jerry Seinfeld needs to take a self-evaluation check and really get in touch with themselves.
Yeah, and let's bring it closer to our community, because there's a post that Kodi and I have been wanting to talk about, that when we saw this story, we were like, oh my gosh, let's bring it back to our community, because someone had recently posted on a Reddit thread that said, okay, why do we as a community, meaning our gay community, refuse to live up to the masculine traits we desire so much sexually? And it was a deep kind of post that was really shining a light on the fact that at least this person thought that we desire masculine traits, but apparently we don't always live up to them. Is that how you took it, essentially,
That's
Kodi?
how I took it, yes. But I mean, I had to brush my hair back because I don't understand what's going on over here in these
Yeah, so just
streets.
to read a couple of things and then we'll discuss, because it does relate to our community. Somebody wrote, everyone should present themselves according to their own idea of gender, and it doesn't give any group power other than their own person. Somebody else wrote, not everyone wants to date a clone of themselves. Sometimes we crave something different to ourselves. And I really love that. Not even, yeah, it's exactly. It's just, I don't think all of us, I think our community, of course, definitely when I was growing up in the 80s, 90s, the workout ethic and the masculine ethic, and to try and be straight and to butch it up, to use a term that was thrown around, were definitely things that I think made a lot of my generation only look for guys that followed that protocol, butch it up kind of thing. And I think that today we have so many more examples of masculinity means so much more today and comes in so many different varieties, and we're realizing that we're not a monolith of one feeling. Like, you can be masculine at times and you can switch it up and tap into your feminine side, and you can, we're more well-rounded, I think, now, and we have more
Yeah.
examples of that. What do you say?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that nowadays people are looking for more well-rounded people. I mean, I love a nice femme queen that's got muscles to date, and I think that that is variety is the spice of life. And the more that you explore yourself and your sexuality and your being, you recognize that you as a person are both masculine and feminine. I mean, look at me. I'm looking like a snack over here with all my muscles, honey. Okay. But she could be girl it up a little bit. Okay, are we doing this?
Don't forget
Yeah.
about
So
me.
I mean, you're looking delicious over there too, Zoll. But I mean, I am a person that fully embraces my masculine side and my feminine side. But I feel like I have been taught to emulate what you want to attract out there in the world. So I think that that is where I come from with that. And I definitely like a nice, muscly guy that is comfortable with his sexuality and being his self in totality.
Yeah, and I don't think that I think being a well-rounded person means that you can tap into both those things. I think women, men, gay men, we're looking for kindness. We're looking for people that are generous. We're looking for people that are good listeners. Those can be either masculine or feminine traits. And
Mhm.
we are now in a place now that we don't need somebody to be the hunter and the provider necessarily. And we want, yes, of course we want somebody to take charge at certain moments in time, but this idea, back to Jerry, the dominant, I think it's, we are, these guys, white men, have got it all wrong, and
Yeah.
we're here to show them differently, that we're a little bit more well-rounded and we've evolved, and that is the key.
Well, I don't think, unfortunately, it's just white men. I was just watching a video clip from a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how men shouldn't say that their friends look good. That was too gay for them, quote unquote. They have to say no diddy afterwards, which I think is completely ridiculous. As a man or a human being, you should be able to say somebody else looks good without it being a sexual connotation towards it. It just means that you think your friend is looking fresh, is looking like he's dressed well, that he is smelling good. So I think that people need to let go of all that and really assess where the compliment is coming from before they allude it to being homosexual or things like that. There's too many restrictions on being a straight person these days, a straight man specifically.
And that's where I agree with you, where the dominant masculine alludes to the fact of, oh, I can't say that about somebody else. And recently, there was a CrossFit coach from France who was slapping his athletes. He was the coach to his athletes' booty that gay Twitter went nuts over. And it went pretty viral. I know you saw it, Kodi, but French CrossFit athlete Jules Castor and his friend and coach Alex Pinsol were. Alex was the one that had just competed and went up to his Jules to basically get a hug from him. Well, Jules patted his butt several times. It was a delicious butt, and gay
Oh.
Twitter went crazy over it. But I wish we had the video to show. I will post this on our Patreon page because it's delicious to watch. And I know we
I just watched it again.
sexualized it, but it was really good. But I can say, as a former athlete, that a gymnast, and you know, that what they're doing is similar to kind of gymnastics, if you will. And
Mhm.
we used to wear all the stretch stuff and the tighty, everything was tight. And when we dismounted from said, what we were doing, we saluted the judges, and we
Okay.
ran over to our teammates, and we often high-fived, we grabbed them, often butts were patted. And believe me, I would have loved it more to happen, and I worked it in my way to try and get more as a naive youngin', but it was what it was. But that's kind of how athletes, when you're in certain sports, act, and it's not sexual. it can
Yeah.
look hot and sexual, like we've sexualized it. But what do you say to when you saw that?
Sister. Oh my goodness.
Yes, sister,
I,
speak.
sister, I watched this video. I just watched it again because I had to see it again for
It's
myself.
delicious.
It is delicious. This man's booty is so thick and plump and ripe, and it is just sitting in the shorts. I feel like I'm describing something off a thirst trap right now because I am thirsty for this. Because in my head, we all went back to the room together and we did it all night long. Yeah, but I think that this is something that how is this people need to evaluate this. How is this straight and
Right.
telling somebody that they're handsome gay? I think that that is such an interesting dichotomy because if you can pat this man on his butt, because to me there's no way they're not fucking because it was just so sexually charged. I in my mind they are, but I feel like maybe they're not, and that this is something that is socially accepted as straight, and it's so wild to me. I can't believe that something like this could be considered straight, and telling someone that you think that they're handsome is or they look good is qualified as something that's gay.
Absolutely. We want to hear from you. We see some of your comments. What are people saying before we move on? Because we're going to do a quick drive-by of some quick topics on nudity and sex outdoors. But Kodi, anything anybody's saying before I run through this drive-through that I'm calling it?
Bryce says Jerry was never dumb. His entire cast became rich because of their flamboyant personalities and comedy, and that Kramer is famous for misogyny, racism, and homophobia. Jerry is still close to him, if he can remember. He says his mother wants to. Bryce said his mother wants to return to that mind, time, and mindset from the 50s too. He goes on to say that the beauty of being LGBTQ, we can embrace all of ourselves, and it's such a gift. And that he gave his dad a kiss on the cheek before his flight, and the dad was disappointed because he deemed it as effeminate.
I love it. Thank you. And we continue the conversation. We'll give our handles at the end of it or join our Patreon community. And let's stay with our community and the beauty of LGBTQ community and how we get away with things so much more. And we're calling this a drive-by right now because the craziness of these next two stories, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, is recently with a Florida woman who is only 20 who was caught having sex on a public pier, jumped into the water when the cops came. And Kodi, I don't know if you looked at the man that she was having sex with, who was 23.
Yes.
Talk about
Woo!
delicious. Oh my goodness.
Girl. I would
Yeah.
have did them too.
I wish we had it. I'll post this on our Patreon so you can see. But essentially, the 20-year-old and the 23-year-old were trying to have sex in actually just in Naples, on a pier. And people got word that they were getting it on. And she, at 20, has children too. And the children were asking, "What are you guys doing?" And she ignored it. Well, the authorities came, and when they came, she jumped into the water to try and escape. And how are you going to try and escape this? It's just ridiculous. And I just couldn't help but think, like, we gays have sex all the time. I mean, I just got back from P-Town, where the Dick Dock, we've got little enclaves or
Unclave,
enclaves.
darling.
Yeah, enclaves. And you can, like, we've created areas. The straights just don't know how to do it like we do. Another story that we just are driving by here, because we don't want to spend too much time, was an alleged naked run on a Virgin flight from Perth to Melbourne led a man to get arrested. He essentially took all his clothes off and in the middle of the flight was running up and down the aisle naked. I'm not sure if he was worth seeing like the last couple, but why is it that we're seeing and hearing, Kodi, so much of lewd acts like this, and the straights just don't know how to do it like we do? Yet we've got certain parts where we know where we can get sex, and 9 times out of 10 we get away with it. What's going on? I mean,
I don't
I'm not
know.
mad at it.
All I know is either these people were on some really good or really bad drugs because this is wild. But
I would say
the
bad because
first,
they're getting caught.
it's true. It's true. It's limiting their social awareness and their spatial awareness. I think that the first couple they did it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was just ridiculous. As a gay, we know that you do not have sex in a public space when it's light out. That's just a no, honey. Unless it's a separate space where it's just us and we can have a good time with just ourselves. So I think they have a lot to learn from the gay community. They might be trying to
Just like
emulate
they
us.
did, just like when we taught the straights about dance music, house music, how to dance at the party, and they're just a little late to public sex, outdoor
I
sex,
agree.
being naked.
Let's go outside. George
Let's
Michael
go
tried to teach
outside,
them.
George Michael.
But yeah, it's just too much. I think that they need to get it together and not go to jail. That would be at the
Thank
top of my list for
you.
public sex.
I
Don't go to jail.
know. It's just like this is when I'm so happy on the eve of Pride to be gay because we have, if nothing else, we've learned how to get away with it, do it. No one's getting caught. And yeah, I love outdoor sex. I love being naked, but don't get caught.
Yes.
For fuck's sake. Don't
Don't
get
go
caught.
to jail.
And don't fuck it up. Oh my
That's
gosh.
right, honey.
So, yes. Well, sadly, we have to talk about, which has been a problem in general, but gay men in France are facing a wave of attacks after being lured into hookups. Not all of them have been about sex, but a lot of them have been about money. And a new report details a wave of attacks on gay men in France carried out by young perpetrators using hookup apps like Grindr to lure their victims before assaulting and robbing them. And the report was a 2017 to 2021 report that looked at our community, and a lot of it had to do with Grindr. A lot of it had to do with people asking for money. And it reminds me, Kodi, too, over the weekend here in New York, I was watching a news story, our New York One, where there, Zelle, we use
Mhm.
Zelle when we're like just, paying each other dinners or
Yeah.
whatever, that kind of thing. There was a group of people that seemed unassuming, but they were, I forget what they were trying to raise money. They were, I'm using air quotes, raise money for. And they said, oh, give me your Zelle and you can donate to our cause on a sunny Memorial Day weekend. And what happened was thousands of dollars were actually extracted from these victims. And I just think that this is where we are at right now. It's like, my goodness. I mean, sadly, I and it seems so easy. Like, how could you give away this and that? We don't want to shame the victims at all.
Yeah. No.
And I know I have a mother that has been victim prey to this. I myself have wondered, wait, is this something that I should be donating to or doing this? And then did a little bit more research and think, oh my God, I almost like gave away such and such amount of money. And I just think we say this story not to scare, but to allow you all to be aware. Do you have anything to say on this before we move on?
Oh, definitely. I'm just going to reiterate what we have said before. I think that it's heinous. And I think that we should all do our due diligence as far as making sure that we are not falling prey to these vultures out here and make sure that they are not catching us unawares. If you are going out to hook up with somebody, try meet in a public place beforehand. I myself have been guilty of not doing that, but I still try my best to adhere to those rules. Don't give anybody your information. I personally I haven't been victimized, but I've definitely gotten the calls. Somebody even called me about like my passport information and all that kind of
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
no child.
Yeah, and the IRS calls that you would get,
Mm-mm.
and the IRS is not calling you. They're gonna send a letter to your house, honey. Okay, so
Thank you. The IRS doesn't
don't
have
get
enough
it
time to
twisted.
call your ass. You're not
So
that important. No, you are that important.
we
I don't mean
no, but we are not. We are not that important to the IRS.
we
You're
don't want to
important
be
in this
that
world,
important to the
baby.
IRS. Yeah.
Thank you, God. Go
Oh
get
my
Donald Trump,
goodness.
honey.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Sorry.
okay. No, all good. And just word of warning, just be aware. And we all need to be aware, right? Is that that's our
Yes,
message, correct? Yeah.
that's our message.
I definitely want to talk about, I know you're watching the current Drag Race All Stars, correct? How
Oh,
is it, by the
you
way?
know. It is, it's okay so far. I'm waiting for
Okay.
it to really to kick into gear.
Okay.
I
Well,
love
one
Roxy. I love Angeria. So I think it's gonna enter the stratosphere very soon. So
well, one of my favorites from past, Gotmik, who competed in 2021, was the first transgender man to compete on the show. Well, current member 3 years later is on the current, correct?
yep.
Current season. And on Friday, Gottmik took home her second challenge win on Drag Race All Stars after hilariously impersonating a dog in a Snatch Game long story. And she hit the runway in a look inspired by her top surgery. The category was a tail and two titties. Well, Gottmik went in an unexpected direction and carried two breasts in a biohazard bag that looked something out of a science fiction film, if you saw it, while two fake arms were took scalpels to her chest that they were actually moving on her chest as she's storming down the runway. You got to watch the videos to see it because it's kind of amazing. And for Drag Race fans, the look was immediately an all-time great. However, when it left our community, I'm talking about the queer community, conservatives didn't know what to make of it. And she was slammed by things like libs of TikTok who posted a clip on the runway writing RuPaul's Drag Race featured a drag queen acting out undergoing a double mastectomy surgery. And other things said like disgusting and on and on and on. Jordan Peterson, who's, also said, watch out that on and on and on. I won't even go into it because it's just
Mhm.
discussing how they took something that was within a community and Drag Race and creativity and being proud, actually, but also having a darker side, I think, too, because we're
Yeah.
allowed to have that too, and used it against us. What did you think of Gottmik's performance on the runway and her what she was eliciting, and then her reaction that she got?
I loved it. I When it came down the runway, at first it took me a second to kind of grasp what was going on because she didn't have I felt like she didn't have the bags in her with the bags with her breasts in there on full display. But as soon as I got it, I lived because first of all, it was fashion. It was 100% fashion. And then it had a message and it had her story in it. So it fit the category so well. And it was really affirming for Mick, and I'm sure it touched a lot of trans men out there. So I thought it was extremely wonderful. And Mick is so smart to turn this the right wing people on their head as far as what they were saying about him because they would say this man is dressed as a woman and for got Mick that was something that was so affirming to her transition and it was just fantastic and he would come back with these retorts and I cannot applaud Gottmik more because I think that they're so brilliant. I think they're so talented, and I think that their mind is in the right space to really stick it to the right wing people that would take us down.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. We did a recent thing where who do you match up with? It was a queer
Oh,
tea drag race game that you could play where you filled out a questionnaire and who do you match up with? And I took the quiz and I matched up with Bob the drag queen. You matched up with Simone and our
Simone.
dear co-host Jeremy Ross Lopez matched up with Gotmik, and I thought
Yeah.
that was a perfect match for all of us, and it was a really cool thing. The other thing I'll say about Gotmik is that she is once again with evolution educating us in real time, and we just had the Reverend Kyle Applegate on our show, and if you haven't listened to it, it's a really good interview that I invite you to check out. I don't have it in front of me, but it's a few episodes back, and Kyle really breaks down, also being a trans male, about where he's at. You can ask him anything. He's so open about his gender transition after 23 years of transitioning, but also the things that you can ask him if you see him out and about, if you see him on the apps, although he's not on the apps really, but in general. And I think it would be good paired up with, if you wanted to learn a little bit more about addressing a trans person, you'll get a lot out of this interview that we did with Kyle Applegate. And also look up that interview. Maybe for this episode, I'll post both Gotmik's Runway Walk as well as our episode with the Reverend Kyle Applegate as a good. You pair those up together and you're good for the night, and it'll be really fun and educational at the same time. And we love those moments when you can pair those up. Oh my gosh, we've got to move on. And sadly, there is no straight up gay porn is not up to snuff right now with their, what do we call it? Thirst trap. And so that's okay though, because we're going to do a couple topics that are going to be really sexy and fun, starting with.
And we got the man with the booty, the CrossFit man. So let's all lust after him.
We already. Recently at a party, these gay men did their best gooning faces. I'll explain a little bit more if you don't know what I'm talking about. And essentially asking the gays at a particular party to do their best gooning, Gooning, impression. And the best video went viral. Well, comedian Zach No Towers has us all dying because he posted a lot of the parties, the guys that were at the party. If you don't know what gooning is a form of masturbation where you essentially masturbate, and you don't allow yourself to climax. And over time, the doing that so much produces like expressions on your face, and they call it gooning. You know what I'm talking about, Kodi, right?
I always finish.
I participated in gooning before, and there's actually, like, if you go on Dude's Nude, and there's a couple other sites too where guys are stroking away, and it's actually really good for tantra too if you just want to stroke away, like with our friend to the show, Bader. You can go to baderbalm.com and still take advantage for a couple days and get 15% off and use their code May15. But I love Bader Balm, and actually you can goon. And I've participated in this before. It's a whole thing where your face just makes these like crazy cross-eyed, like you're in ecstasy, like you can't come, and your eyes are going cross-eyed and your tongue's out, and it's almost animalistic. It's almost like imagine being in a trance, if you will. It's kind of cool to let yourself go that way, and I love it. So I guess you already answered the question. I love gooning, and I think it's really hot. Do you have a gooning face that you could share with this, Kodi?
I knew you were going to ask this.
You did not know I was going to
I
ask
knew.
that.
I definitely knew. As soon as I
Extract
watched the
that
video,
from the show, producer.
as soon as I watched the video, I said, he's going to ask me to goon on this show. And I don't think, can you go first to show me how it's done?
It's just something like, I mean, it's a little bit hard as an actor to go like into Shakespeare when you're not warmed up. And I mean, I could try, but you're not gonna,
Okay,
normally
give
I
it your
go
best shot.
through, well, normally I have a team that I work with, and we've
Oh,
already
okay.
worked through this whole thing, and it's very Shakespearean, Kodi, and I don't know if you
Oh,
understand
yeah.
that, but anyways, we'll save it for our Patreon. How's that? You can
Oh,
watch it
okay.
on,
Let's do
go to
that.
patreon.com/Tegs podcast, and Kodi and I will give our best gooning faces for you. It's
You
for
have to go
free. You'll
first,
get it
though.
there. Yeah, I'll do it there. And yes. Oh my God. Some comments are coming through, and we thank you so much. Alan, thank you for watching. Says, I wish Drag Race would stop changing networks. It's on Paramount Plus, right? I'm paying for so many streaming services. I need my coin for Poppy Steve's OnlyFans. Oh my gosh, thank you for the shout. Yes, you do need that. And more content coming soon. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's funny. I like that. Yeah, there are so many streaming. I'm an OG. I only watch the regular season, but I understand that I could get it on Amazon, the current season.
You can have my Paramount Plus.
No, but could I not download it, buy it on Amazon if I wanted to, the current season? But I'm probably not going to do it because I'm just a regular old schooler. I just watched the regular season. Yeah. Let's give some advice. And Kodi, I know you had some advice that you wanted to give based on one of these. And what was the one that you wanted to?
The deep throating one. I like that one.
Can you read it for us and then we'll
Of
discuss?
course, sister. Of
Thanks,
course.
sister.
Can you learn to? Okay, so this Reddit thread is from a
I can
original
just
poster
listen.
that
I love
says,
it.
"Can you learn to deep throat, or if you can't, you just can't." So, and they go on to say, I met up with a couple guys last week, and they were both what I say bigger than average. Definitely bigger than what I'm used to. I can usually go all the way down, but these two guys, it just wasn't happening. Both were about the same length, but one pointed completely straight and thinner, the other one thicker with a slight down. I love the dick description. The
I'm turning my
thicker curve
mic.
the thicker curve guy. Well, I'm gonna skip to the end. Is this something
Yes.
that they can train their throat to do, or is it just how the mechanics of my throat work and learn to do other things with the added length, like
The
use my
answer is
hands or something
yes.
like that? The answer is
The
yes.
the answer to me is yes, because I learned early on that I don't have a really good gag reflex. I think
Okay.
that's the way to say it. In other words, I have thought I was always a size queen at one point, and then I would go and I'd be like, oh, like I couldn't do it, and then I was like choking and all this stuff. I'll save you the theatrics, but essentially, I learned that through breathing, and I've learned through breathing you can do a lot of different things, like take a dick, suck a dick, all kinds of things. Breathing's like amazing. Oxygen's like your best friend, and I've learned to take it like swallow better, but it does take a little bit of practice, and you need your guy to be a little bit patient too. And don't be afraid for like saliva and stuff to come up, and it's all in good, but you
That's
can
hot.
train yourself. You can these are muscles, these throat muscles, and they can relax. And so I say yes, you can, not can't.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that you can. A tip that I've always told everybody that I've run across that asked me this question, I don't know why I get this question so much, is that
I know why.
is that is that if you want to train your gag reflex when you're brushing your teeth, stick your toothbrush to the back of your neck, to the back of your throat, and it will. At first, it will start to trigger your gag reflex, but the more you do it, the more accustomed you become to something being back there.
Tips and
Yeah,
tricks.
tips and tricks. Who knew I had a dick sucking trick?
I love it. And Alan says, and it's fun practicing and training. Absolutely. Oh my
That's my other tip.
goodness.
Practice, practice, practice. Come over here if you need some.
Practice makes perfect. So we want you to continue to practice and let us know your stories on that. Oh my goodness, this has been so much fun. You can always follow my co-host Kodi. He is on Instagram. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching, but also follow his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Don't forget to download his single, Talk About It. And he's going to be singing new material on our upcoming July live stream. And we want you to weigh in on that. Let us know some songs you want him to sing. But don't forget to grab a tier. You know, you're celebrating our season 8 premiere, and you're getting some extra perks from us all week long that are really great, like commercial free extra podcasts, and you're supporting Tags Podcast. And you can go to patreon.com/Tags Podcast. There's really only 2 tiers to grab, and it's a lot of fun. And we welcome you to join our Tags community. Follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V. And go to my Twitter account, or X as they're calling it now, at Tags Podcast, where you get a preview of my Just for Fans or Only Fans. And it's scintillating, I can tell you that. That's what they tell me. And in the meantime, continue having hot,
gay sex.